Well, hello and welcome to this, the Thursday, or as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Sun's trying to peek through the clouds, but it certainly was a soggy start to the day today. A little bit of rain overnight. In fact, got to a point where it kind of woke me up for a few minutes there as it hits the roof and runs off and outside the window and wakes me up. Driving in this morning on my way to the studio, another one of those localized downpours. But at the end of the day, it looks like things are starting to calm down a little bit. And as we said here on the show yesterday, that the rain and this temperature, I think it was 8 degrees when I came into work this morning, has essentially wiped out the white that was on the ground, and we're back to where we are normally, I would say, this time of December when we approach Christmas. Don't forget, tomorrow, Alistair Alders will be here, and we're going to put the question to him. I know he's busily going over his maps and his models and all of the things that the weather people use to predict the weather these days, and we're going to ask him what we can expect on Christmas Day. Are we going to have a white Christmas? That is going to be a part of the discussion, but that's going to happen tomorrow. And as I said yesterday, I learn things as I do this show every day, and there is an actual meteorological term for white Christmas. There's a certain set of criteria that have to happen in order for it to be declared a white Christmas. There has to be a certain amount of snow, a little bit of snow on the ground. Alistair will lay that all out for us on Friday as we do our regular segment with him. I hope that you can join us and learn as much as I do with that segment. Anyway, our friends over in New Brunswick are probably not even considering a brown Christmas at this point. They're in the teeth of what we saw here for rain. They're getting snow, and I've seen several school closures in New Brunswick today. A few in our part of the world schools weren't closed, pardon me, but the buses were running on their sort of discretionary grounds today. But over in New Brunswick, there have been a number, particularly in the Fredericton area, some school closures there as they're battling with another round of snow from Mother Nature. If you're traveling that way today, take note that you're likely going to run into some plows and to some snow up that way. Lots of news this morning. My goodness, the province, and this is probably going to be what the question I'm going to ask you today during the open hour. The province has now issued a tender. They have put out a RFP, as it's called, a request for proposals to study traffic congestion in HRM. Yep, you heard me right. The province is now going to study traffic and congestion here in the city. Now, when I saw this yesterday, it raised a number of questions for me, and we're going to reach out to Fred Tilley, the minister responsible, to have him appear on the show and to answer some of these questions. But it just, is this the latest salvo, for lack of a better term? I'm trying to find the best way to describe it. That the latest dig, maybe, at city council, the province not thinking that the city is doing enough to deal with traffic congestion. We know it's been a certain topic of discussion here for many months now. But I have to ask you a question as a taxpayer. So I pay my taxes. Vanessa Veinotte, on the other side of the glass, doing a fabulous job, pays her taxes. And you all pay your taxes. But there's one taxpayer, right? HRM has been studying traffic congestion to death. Now, the province is going to spend some money and a 2-year study, from what I understand, to do its own study on traffic congestion in HRM. If you're a taxpayer in the city, you might be able to stomach that. You might be frustrated with the results that we've seen as of late from regional council on traffic. More data is good data, right? Anytime you get additional information on something is a good thing. But if you're a taxpayer living in East Hants this morning, or you're down in Yarmouth, or you're up in Amherst, or you're in Truro, or you're in Sydney, or you're in Antigonish, do you give a rat's behind about traffic congestion in HRM? And should that be taxpayer funded? I'm looking forward to your comments on that when we open up the telephone lines today after 11 o'clock. Nova Scotia Power is holding some sessions beginning today down in the Yarmouth area. I got a note just before coming on the air today from Nova Scotia Power's Senior Communications Advisor, Jacqueline Foster, and she said, just wanted to provide some clarity to what's happening there today. These sessions will be similar to what the utility did to support customers who didn't have access to the internet and were looking for help signing up for the credit monitoring. It's a come and go session, according to Nova Scotia Power, not a full-fledged meeting. It'll be an opportunity to speak to someone from customer care in person about their bill. The session today from 3 until 7 in Yarmouth, and that is from Nova Scotia Power, the very latest. I was looking on their website earlier today, and I know that Jacqueline Foster's probably listening right now, but I was on their website earlier. I didn't see a list or dates of times of other sessions that are going to happen. So if somebody has them out there, can you please send them to us so we can pass that along to our listeners if they want some information on their bill, on their estimated bills. And those sessions are coming a little closer to home than in Yarmouth. We will get that information, and we will pass along the latest to you. Class action lawsuit. Did you see this on Friday? Speaking of Nova Scotia Power, class action lawsuit has now been filed against NSP by MacGillivray Law, and it's looking to dig into this cyber attack and the aftermath and the overbilling, or the estimated billing, I think is the right terms to write to say it correctly. That was launched on Friday. We're very lucky. We're going to have a conversation with the spokesperson for MacGillivray Law. John MacGillis will be joining us here in the studio at 10:30 today to give us some details on the class action lawsuit, what it's about, how it works, and if somebody out there wants to join the class action, how they can do that. That's going to happen at 10:30 today. We got new data from the Fraser Institute showing that we're cutting back. You and I and the rest of Canada are cutting back on our charitable donations. Only 17% of Canadians claimed a donation on their taxes in 2023. That's down from 25% in 2004. We know that Atlantic Canada and Nova Scotia, we are a charitable bunch. We've talked to a number of charities over the last weeks talking about the Christmas season and the needs for donations. But at the end of the day, right, when there's an affordability crisis happening, when it's costing you more for your rent or your mortgage, when it's costing you an arm and a leg to make your weekly or your however many times a week you go to the grocery store, I think the charities are probably the first ones that see a decline in participation, right? I don't think it's that Nova Scotians or Atlantic Canadians or Canadians by extension are less charitable. I just think that there are more bills than wages these days, and some tough decisions have to be made. We're talking about tough decisions at the municipal budget level. Well, I know that there's many of you out there in your car this morning or at your office or at home listening to the show that are making tough decisions when it comes to your budget this year. And the charities seem to be the ones that are losing out, according to the latest data from the Fraser Institute. Speaking of data, we've been watching the goings-on in Ottawa. They're getting ready to take, I think, a 6-week Christmas break. Imagine 6 weeks for a Christmas break. Wouldn't that be nice? Vanessa's got a big smile on her face. And we know in January that Pierre Poilievre will be facing the party and in a leadership contest. Some suggest the leadership contest rules may be in his favor, but nonetheless, he will face the leadership contest in January. And Angus Reid has put out some data this morning on the popularity of Mr. Poilievre as the leader. The data from Angus Reid finds a majority still, 58% of recent Conservative voters, that's people who have checked the box for a Conservative candidate in the last little bit, want Poilievre to continue to lead the Conservatives into the next election, 58%. So at the end of the day, a politician that's heading into a leadership contest with 58% support will be feeling pretty confident heading into that leadership debate or leadership contest. That being said, Angus Reid did a survey back in August about this. This was when Mr. Poilievre was either was still running for or was just freshly elected in his new home riding of in Alberta, and was getting ready to head back to the House of Commons after his election defeat, both nationally and in his own riding in the last federal election. But Angus Reid asked the same question in August, and his popularity rating was at 68%. That's a 10% drop since August. And we've seen some defections. We've seen some stumbles from the leader of the Conservative Party. The RCMP comments come to mind. And lots of rumors that not is all well within the hallowed halls of the Conservative caucus room. So maybe this foregone conclusion that is set to take place in January when Mr. Poilievre faces a leadership review might not be the done deal that people think it is. But as I said earlier, 58% support would be shocking to me to see Mr. Poilievre ousted as leader when that event happens. Time Magazine has put out its Person of the Year this year today, and it's a group of people. No, it's not who you thought it was. Didn't he already win it? Didn't Trump already win that? Anyway, the person or persons of the year this year, according to Time Magazine, are the architects of artificial intelligence. There's a lot of news out there, folks. It happens, on this show, it happens everywhere else. We're talking about all kinds of things, but one of the consistent stories that has been maybe not leading the newscasts, but has certainly been talked about a lot, is the rise of artificial intelligence. I saw a story yesterday that is suggesting that more and more municipalities in Canada are looking at AI to solve issues. It was a story, I think it emanated out of Saskatoon, where they're using artificial intelligence to monitor their bus fleet to try and get ahead of maintenance. Apparently, it's much more sensitive than the human ear to small changes in, I don't know, brake pressures and temperatures in the engine and those kind of things that are telltale signs of maintenance that's to come. So AI is not going anywhere. It's going to take a even more of a center stage than as of late. So the architects of AI have been named as the Time Persons of the Year. Getting ready to take our first break here on the show this morning. Glad you're able to spend a few minutes with us. But before we do that, as is normal around here, as Vanessa and I get into our routines in the morning, and Vanessa gets all the stuff that she has to do to get ready for the show, she walked by the prize cabinet this morning. And lo and behold, it was a daily double from what she pulled out of the prize cabinet. We've been talking about this most of the week. The Golden Girls. You remember the Golden Girls on television? It was a long-running comedy, and it was set in Florida. And it was four elderly ladies that were living together, and the fun and frivolity of that. And I know it was much beloved, and I know it was watched in many maritime households. Well, they're coming to the stage. They're coming to Halifax next year, early in the year, and they're coming to the stage. The show is called Golden Girls, The Laughs Continue. So you'll get another chance to see Sophia and Rose and Blanche and Dorothy as they go about their fun and frivolity of their life. It will hit the stage at the Rebecca Cone March the 1st. It's a 2 o'clock show. Now, we're feeling a little extra Christmassy today, and there's a reason why, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we're going to give away not one, not two, not three, but 4 sets of 4 tickets to go and see the Golden Girls. The Laughs Continue, March 1st at the Rebecca Cone at 2 o'clock. It'd be a great stocking stuffer, wouldn't it? If you want to go, you'll go on us. 4 sets of 4, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We'll take callers 5, 9, 12, and 14. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Good luck. We'll take our first break. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. And before we take that break, very quickly, thank you to David and Chris in District 7 for the holiday cheer they sent us yesterday. Much appreciated. The staff room is a much brighter place today because of it. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. We're back after the break. Hello and welcome back as we carry on here on the program. Dan Alstrand along with you as we enjoy yet another Thursday with some sunshine that is starting to poke through the clouds. And we are looking forward to a bit of a break from the rain that we saw last time around. As I mentioned, some Christmas cheer in the newsroom and in the studio that was provided to us yesterday from our friends over in District 7. That would be Sean and Chris. I appreciate that, and hope you're having a fantastic day. Vanessa, we're working our way through the contesting here to try and figure out what is going on with regards to the winners of the tickets. That was a bit of a big giveaway, so we're going to have to fill up a little bit here before we can grab our next guest and get them on the phone here. But I am looking forward to our conversation. We're going to focus a little bit on to the Winter Games that are coming up. There's a lot of talk about the Olympics that are coming up next year, obviously, right, with the world's best athletes getting together in Italy, and some of the fun and some of the frivolity that is involved with that, particularly the ongoing dispute over the hockey rink and it being 4 feet short. But from what I've been able to read on that one, none of the NHL players that are going to participate in the event are concerned about the length of the rink. It's not really a big deal, I guess. 4 feet is a lot in my world, but when you're comparing it to, I guess, 200 feet of ice surface, that is a lot to get through my brain. Anyway, the hockey player's not worried about it. What there is some concern about, though, is that we are looking at a delay in the opening of the facility. And when we have a delay in the opening of the facility, that means that they can't test it out. Apparently, there was supposed to be a test match or a test tournament at the facility in Italy in January. That I think has been pushed back to almost to February now, and the games start in February. So there's not a lot of room for error, I will say, when it comes to getting that thing done. I know that the NHLPA, the Players Association, has been working hard with that. And I know that they are doing their very best to try and get this done. I think hockey, and maybe not in other places around the world, but certainly in North America, the hockey tournaments, both men's and women's, have become quite a popular event. In fact, I'm going to suggest that they have become the marquee event of the Olympic Games. At least it is in Canada. And I know we're looking forward to seeing our local fellas that are taking on, and our local women that are taking on the world at this event. And I know that Nova Scotia will be loud and proud when both those teams take the ice as we cheer them on in Italy. But you don't start going to the Olympic Games by just waking up one day and going to the Olympic Games. There's lots of training. There's lots of early mornings and late nights and lots of preparations that help athletes along as they continue to pursue those perhaps Olympic dreams. And one of the marquee events in Canada that is one of the ways that we prepare to send athletes to events like the Olympic Games in Italy this year is the Winter Games, the Canada Winter Games. And the next one of these is in 2027. And the athletes will be one step ahead of most, I will suggest. And the reason why I say that is that we've named our chef de mission for the Winter Games in 2027, who's coming to the job with some experience, having done it in 2019. And then at the Summer Games in St. John's that we saw here just a few months ago. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the show today to tell us a little bit about this job and what and how important the Winter Games are is Nova Scotia's chef de mission, and that is Cathy Burton. Cathy, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well, and that's an awful lot of pressure you just put on us.
well, it's that you have to. There's pressure in sports, right? So
always. That's what makes us strong. Yeah,
no doubt. Tell me a little bit about the importance of the Winter Games. Is it sort of the first real test of somebody who perhaps wants to pursue that Olympic dream?
It is. It's the largest multi-sport event in Canada for youth. And so it gives athletes an opportunity to not only represent their province in their sport, but to represent their province as an entire team. So Team Nova Scotia will attend the Canada Games in 2027 as one big team competing in their sport. And in that becomes their responsibility of, living in an athlete's village that prepares them for potentially some sleep deprivation. As you could imagine, 2,400 youth living together for a week, or actually be half of that, living together for a week, for 2 weeks. Teaches them to eat well, and a lot of that preparation will obviously begin before they arrive in Quebec City. But the Canada Games is truly, it strengthens the fabric of Nova Scotia sport, and it also strengthens the fabric of Canada through sport. So,
Cathy,
it's exciting watching athletes connect with athletes from other provinces,
right,
who eventually may become teammates. Yes.
Cathy, you have a large job as with all of these athletes and most of them being young athletes, keeping everybody sort of going down the straight and narrow path here. Obviously the stuff off of the playing field or surface is part of the experience, but that must be a large task to keep everybody sort of with their head in the game, so to speak.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, the coaches and the managers of each of those sports kind of hold the tighter reins than we do. Our job as a mission staff, my position would be, is to collect individuals who can be, I would say, an extra manager in some regards for teams to help eliminate noise. So when I say that, I mean we'll have a mission staff of wonderful humans who have some experience in sport, who will help develop some confidence for the coaching staff leading up to and into the games, not necessarily tactically or strategy or skill, but all of the other things. So the other things that make athletes able to compete at the best that they can. So the organizational administrative tasks that have to happen before the games, such as true sport, drug testing, education, all of that kind of stuff, registration pieces. They'll support our teams through that. And then obviously support them at the games in terms of, when can they eat? When is their bus leaving for the arena? What time do they need to be ready to go to the opening ceremonies? Our mission staff are on the go 24 hours, 7 days a week once we get to the games with their phones on in case there's an urgent need through the night or through the day, support athletes with injuries. So they have it's a massive job. And I can attest to the last two teams that we took away from mission staff. They were just tremendous humans who cared about their athletes and were their number one supporters in the stands. So it's a big job, a fulfilling job. They come back tired, exhausted, but all very much worth it.
Cathy, the games are in 2027. They're in Quebec City, and we're almost out of time. But I would imagine that planning has already begun, and athletes have already started, with looking at that tournament, those games with a gold medal in mind.
Oh, absolutely. We had a great games in 2025 on the podium. We had great games off the podium as well, but we always learn and reflect on what we've learned and what we can do better. So that work has already started on how we can make things even better than it has been done in the past.
Congratulations on the appointment. We're looking forward to watching Team Nova Scotia compete and, get some podium finishes.
That's wonderful. Thank you, and season's greetings.
That is Cathy Burton, the 2027 chef de mission for Team Nova Scotia for the 2027 Winter Games. We're going to stop and take a break here on the news. A busy morning, holy smokes. When we come back, you've no doubt heard about it by now that a class action suit has been launched against Nova Scotia Power over the data breach, and this estimating fiasco, if I can call it that. That's launched by MacGillivray Law. Spokesperson for MacGillivray Law, John MacGillis, will be in the studio after the news here. We'll get the very latest on this and what it means for you and I and for ratepayers across the province when we return. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, you may have seen some of the coverage of it, apparently, and our next guest will obviously confirm it for us. A class action lawsuit has now been filed against Nova Scotia Power over the data breach and overbilling and so on and so forth. And I'm very happy to welcome into the studio to give us the best information that's available out there right now. That is a spokesperson for MacGillivray Law, and it's John MacGillis who joins us in the studio today. John, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so let's start with that. This thing has been filed. Was it filed on Friday, correct?
Correct. It was filed on Friday afternoon with the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia.
Okay, how does a class action work? What is what's the procedure here?
Yeah, looking down the line after the statement of claims has been filed, we're looking at certifying a class. And essentially what that means is the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia saying we're good to go, that you have a class of people that are connected by this issue, and we're able to proceed as a class, meaning that it's the most efficient way for the court to deal with this problem, rather than the 250,000 plus people who have been impacted, each bringing forward an individual claim. So there has to be legal basis to the claim, a connecting issue that unites all of these people in this class.
So in the statement of claim, what are the allegations that are laid out in it?
Yeah, the allegations shouldn't be any surprise to ratepayers. There's two classes named. The first class is people who have been affected by the data breach, those who have their personal information, their banking details, their social insurance number, information like that they received a letter that were told your data's been breached. The second class are, there is an overlap between these two classes, but the second class are people who have had overestimates on their billing. And essentially what the statement of claim alleges is that Nova Scotia Power is in breach of their duty to, have safeguards in place to protect their customers' data. In the broadest sense, that's what we're bringing forward, and that they're also in breach with respect to billing and having accurate, timely bills that reflect the power usage of their consumers.
So this is and forgive me, I'm not a lawyer, but when you file it, this isn't a criminal thing. This is a lawsuit. You're essentially suing the utility for some of the things you just laid out.
Correct. Yeah, it's not this isn't a criminal action. What the law firm's looking for on behalf of this class is compensable damage.
So when it comes to class action lawsuits, it's been my experience that they involve a lot of people, and you alluded to it earlier, saying that all of those that had received that letter and had their information breached, and of course have seen estimated bills as a result. I would imagine that there are a lot of people out there that may be interested in joining this class action lawsuit. Can they, and B, how do they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, as sort of a preliminary step, we have a form on our website at MacGillivraylAw.com that we're asking, ratepayers who have been impacted, who've either received a letter or noticed that their billing details have been, incorrect over the last little while, to, just include their name, their number, some contact information. We ask optionally if they want to share their Nova Scotia Power account number and a comment as to what's been going on. So essentially, we're just collecting stories from Nova Scotians who have been impacted by this. So yes, they're able to put their name forward. It helps us sort of, show a demonstrable group of people who have been impacted by this. And right now, the form, I believe, as the last time I checked, it's at 10,000 people who have put their name forward.
Obviously, the court system is the court system, and it moves at the speed of the court system. Would imagine people are curious as to how long this is going to take. Any idea how long it'll take to certify, or how long it will take to work its way through the courts? It's
difficult to speculate at this point. There's a lot of variables that could come forward, a lot of motions that could happen, maybe or may not happen, that would sort of make this longer. So it's sort of a difficult estimate to make.
In broad strokes, I know that this is obviously new and it's still before the courts. In broad strokes, how does it work at the end of a lawsuit like this? At the end of the game, if we're using fictitious people here, if the law firm is successful in suing the company, would it be the same as we've seen in class actions? I think the bread law. I think that one's closing today, where a lot of people join the suit, and then there's if there's any damages awarded, that gets spread among the class?
Correct. Yeah, that's how it would break out. The actual mechanism at this point, it's a little bit opaque, right. Just because we're very early in the process. But effectively, you can look at other class actions that had happened that consumers may have received some message on. The bread one's a great example. 23andMe recently had a class action. Some affected people may have noticed. But yes, the mechanism is likely to be very similar to other class action lawsuits.
So to sum it up, we don't know when or if this will even be certified yet, but the process has begun, and those that are interested in learning more about it, or perhaps joining the class action, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would ask anyone who has been impacted, whether by the data breach or by overbilling, to visit our website. We have a form and just share your story. Help us understand what's going on. We brought forward this statement of claim on behalf of Representative Plaintiff Daniel Fraser out in Westville, Nova Scotia. This is something that's impacted so many people that people's experiences are varied, and we want to be able to accurately represent the people who have been impacted by this and hear what's going on with them.
And imagine the more people that participate in this, John, it builds your case stronger for the depth and breadth of what this means.
That's correct.
All right, John, again, the MacGillivray Law website, and all the information is available there, and we'll keep you updated, and I'm sure you'll join us again once this thing moves down the road.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. That's John MacGillis, spokesperson for MacGillivray Law. Very quickly, Vanessa, I'm going to throw her under the bus here. She gets mad when I do this. Put your headphones on, Vanessa, because people want to hear from you. They're sick of me. We did a pretty big giveaway this morning. And who are the winners?
So today the winners are Jean Francis and Lisa Smith.
Congratulations. Those tickets will be well used, I would imagine. Anyway, you never know when those are going to drop here on the program or when Vanessa goes by the prize cabinet. And so make sure you keep your radio locked right here. We're going to take a break a little bit early here. When we come back, a conversation with Halifax Regional Municipalities Auditor General. A follow-up report on the audit of HRM IT was released this week. We'll get Andrew Atherton's thoughts on it when we come back. You are listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. Back as we roll along here on a busy Thursday edition of the program. Again, if you are curious about this class action with Nova Scotia Power and want to learn some more, it's vital that you log on to the MacGillivray Law website, and they will be able to guide you through the process, give you the information that's available out there, and should you choose to join it, there's the opportunity to do so there. Well, we heard from the Auditor General this week as City Council took in some of the comments from Andrew Atherton, who is, of course, the city's of Halifax's Auditor General, taking a look at an older report from 2003 and an audit of HRM's IT, and we're very pleased to welcome the Auditor General for HRM, Andrew Atherton, to the program. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me on this morning.
I'm very glad you made some time for us. I know you're probably busy these days. Andrew, I guess the bottom line here is this wasn't a new audit. This was a review of an audit from back in 2023 and how the city has performed in instituting some of the recommendations on this. Am I correct?
Exactly, yes. This was the last audit that my predecessor released before I started. So we have a standard follow-up process, roughly 18 months or shortly thereafter, after each audit's released, we go in and have a look at how management have done at implementing them and provide that information back to council so they have an understanding of where things stand.
It's something that I hear about here on the program often is that we get an auditor's report and then it's released and there's some coverage of it and then we don't hear a whole lot about it after. That's what this process is designed to do, right? Exactly.
It's one of the I think the role of the Auditor General is really important. I think it's really helpful that Halifax has one. But one of the challenges in an Auditor General's role is we don't have the ability to compel. We can't force anyone to complete anything. We do our audits, we release our reports, share them with council, release them publicly, and then it's up to management to make those changes. And if they don't, all I can do is come back and say they haven't done it. In this case, management have actually done a pretty solid job, 81%, so 13 of the 16 recommendations we made have been addressed. So that's good. Our goal is 80%, recognizing that some things take longer than others. So in this case, I'm reasonably pleased with where management have have taken this, and I look forward to the last 3 being completed in hopefully the not too distant future.
That is, in my experience, not something that we hear a lot. Is that that there's a lot of these recommendations have been done, and it must have been nice to read when you came across that on this one.
Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, cybersecurity is obviously near and dear to everybody in the municipality and broader. It's front of mind, so I'm not surprised that management would take these ones seriously. There's a lot of incentive to do that, but nonetheless, yeah, I'm very pleased with the performance, the progress I've made to date.
Andrew, watching the committee meeting when you presented this, and I think I understand why, but for the benefit of our listeners, a lot of the information that was included was taken behind closed doors. Is that because of the sensitive nature of cybersecurity and issues dealing with personal information?
Yeah, that's very normal. As an Auditor General, our job is to shine a light on what's happening, but the last thing I want to do is provide a roadmap to any potential bad actors, I'll call them, that want to take advantage of the situation in HRM. So those decisions, the initial decisions were made by my predecessor on what would be shared publicly and what would be kept in camera, and I fully agree with that approach, that there are simply some things that we don't want to say for everyone to hear because people could take advantage of it, and that would really defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do.
You mentioned that there's still a couple of recommendations that are outstanding on this. Did council or did HRM staff give you any kind of indication if these are on timetable and if these are to be completed?
Yeah, management felt that all of their recommendations were most of the way there. The 3 that are remaining, there were some pieces that we felt weren't quite ready. So I'll be reaching back out to management in the near future to have some conversations and see where they stand and make sure that we explain to them what we're looking for, the last little bits to get this over the line. They didn't give a specific time frame on when they will do this. As you can probably imagine, there are recommendations that are in camera, and some of the changes will go hand in hand with these changes. So management's working at it, and we'll follow up with them. We'd be due for our next follow-up 18 months from now, but I think we may look at doing that a little bit sooner to try to get some clarity that this has all been finished.
Andrew, the work of the Auditor General never ends, does it? There's always something in the hopper there. The New Year's upon us. We're going to see 2026 not that far off. What can we expect to see come from your office in the first bit of the year next year?
Right now, my team. I mean, we're a small team, and as you say, there's one of my former bosses referred to it as a lot of low-hanging fruit when you're auditing in government. But right now I've got a team that's looking at the hiring practices at Halifax Water. We had done a hiring practices audit at HRM a little less than 2 years ago. We released that, so we're now taking that same audit and applying it to Halifax Water. I've got another manager who's working on an audit of the capital budgeting process, which is obviously
front and center right now.
Front and center right now. We'll be looking at just what's happening behind the scenes and what supports the information that council is ultimately having to make decisions on.
Well, we appreciate the work that you and your office do, Andrew. It's I know it must be sometimes difficult because some of the topics are thorny, to say the least. But we're very glad that you guys are there and you bring all this stuff to the surface.
I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
That is Andrew Atherton, the Auditor General for the Halifax Regional Municipality. Not often. And, we're pretty critical of HRM here. But it's not often that an Auditor General's report sees well over 80% of the work that needs to be done under the recommendations done. So I would... To send a tip of the ball cap, as Raquel used to say, to city staff for getting that done. Auditor generals are so important, right? And Andrew Atherton hit the nail right on the head. It must be difficult for the auditor and for the staff that work there to go through this process and compile all this work and present all of these things and do all these media interviews and so on and so forth. And then, as I said yesterday, the book that is the audit sits on a shelf with a bunch of dusty tomes, and nothing really gets done after. So that's why I think these review processes are important. I think that the Auditor General's job is important. They get an opportunity to shed some light on some pretty interesting, I will say, subject matters. And I am looking forward to the capital budget audit and the presentation for that. And it might go a long way to alleviate some of the concerns that get raised here on the program about city staff and the supports that they get and the amount of say they have, I will say, in the capital budget spending program, which is a large chunk of money that you and I are currently watching unfold right now as the city council goes around and their budget process. We're getting ready to take a break here on the program. We're going to open up the telephone lines after the news at 11 o'clock to hear, and there is plenty to talk about. I know I'm getting a lot of emails from you all with regards to the MacGillivray Law lawsuit with Nova Scotia Power. That might be something that you want to discuss here on the program. I got a couple of emails from you yesterday from people who said that they couldn't get through to talk about the ban on cell phones in Australia. Now, we've had a day or so to digest that. For those of you that are not sure what I'm talking about, Australia enacting a law this week that effectively bans anybody under the age of 16 from accessing social media. That includes the Twitters and the TikToks and the Facebooks and the WhatsApps and all the other ones that I don't have. Saying that it's contributing to some of the mental health and other health issues that youth in that country are facing. And I wonder if that is, it's been proposed here. The Liberal Party of Nova Scotia proposed it. The government of the day, the Progressive Conservatives, kind of said, not really our responsibility. That's got to fall on the federal government. But I'm wondering what you think about it. If you think that it's a good idea, or if you think it's going to be an absolute nightmare for people to be able to police it. I understand that there's significant fines. I understand that the onus is on the social media companies to do so. And if somebody is caught not enforcing the ban, then would be a significant fine. But some of the stuff I read yesterday and some of the reporting I saw on it yesterday would suggest that the social media companies are looking for this to get tested in court to see how that all folds out. But it might be something worth discussing here on the program. And very quickly, speaking about spending money, this one kind of got under my collar yesterday when I was watching the news, having my dinner. The provincial government is now offering a tender, offering a request for proposal for somebody to come into HRM and study traffic congestion. Now, we know that the lines, and we know that city councils exist at the behest of a provincial government. I understand that. We know that traffic issues have been on the Premier's radar for quite some time. Bridge tolls, Moore Street, bike lanes. But now, the provincial government is going to spend some money on a 2-year study looking at ways to solve congestion problems in HRM. The municipality has been studying this for a long time. I wonder what new information we're going to get from a provincial study. And if you're like me, you're wondering, all right, so I've paid for a study to be done on many studies, one would suggest, on traffic in HRM by HRM Council. Now, the provincial government's going to do a study on traffic congestion, which is going to be paid for by you and I. And I also wonder if you're listening to us today from Truro or from Sydney or from Antigonish or from Tatamagouche or somewhere else outside of HRM, if you like to see provincial tax money spent on a traffic survey, a traffic study looking at congestion in the urban areas of HRM. All these and more. It's the beauty of the open hour. You can talk about whatever it is on your mind. And we're going to open up those telephone lines right now. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour after the news. Welcome back. It's time for the open hour. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Lines are wide open if you want to join the conversation and talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's the beauty of Open Line Radio. A couple of emails from people with regards to our earlier conversation today about the class action lawsuit launched by MacGillivray Law on Nova Scotia Power over the cyber breach and the overestimated billings and those kind of things. Some saying that they're having trouble finding it on the website. You have to. I found it just before we came on the air here. You, if you go into their practice areas area on their website, right at the very bottom of the list is the Nova Scotia Power class action link, and for those of you that like addresses, it's MacGillivray.com/data-security. So that hopefully answers some of the questions that I've been getting from people with regards to that. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are on the province studying this traffic congestion. And the reason I ask that is, as you well know, we have lots of conversations around the water coolers here, and it was about a 50-50 split on people that thought it was a good idea as opposed to a maybe not so good idea. Some suggesting that the city hasn't been able to get it right, so maybe the province needs to come in and study this traffic problem. And maybe if they come up with their own data, then maybe they come forward with some money to help sort it out. Others, like me, suggest that this thing's already been studied, and we have study after study after study on a problem that nobody seems to have at least a political will to fix. And to force taxpayers of Nova Scotia to pay this again doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. An email from Gino who writes, when they went to estimate their bills, they should have underestimated instead of gouging. Is that what they're guilty of? And giving them fines or is kind of useless because it comes out of their expenses because they get a guaranteed 9% return. The only way the fines would work is if it came out of the 9%. And that has been a discussion point from the minute that the Premier even started talking about fines here for Nova Scotia Power for this breach and all the stuff that fell out after it. But we should not use that, I think, my opinion, we shouldn't use that as an excuse not to do it, right? I had suggested that maybe, and I don't even know if it's legal or if the Nova Scotia Energy Board has the power or the provincial government has the power to even do this. But what I had suggested is that, if they're found to have been in breach, then instead of levying a fine against Nova Scotia Power, you should or could institute a freeze on the amount that they can increase our rate for an extended period of time. Right? Cap it at CPI or cap it under CPI. And then when the inevitable happens and the prices go up and they're looking to come to us for another rate increase that, by the way, we're going to face next year, then they are only allowed to bring a certain percentage. I think that one would send a message not only to the utility, but to the utility's parent company and to the shareholders of the parent company, because then they may not be able to get that 9%. I think that's really the only way that you send a message. But that's just my opinion. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Sunny day. People must be outside enjoying the sunshine before it gets cold. Well, quiet on the phone lines today. Lots of lines are open if you want to get in here to join the conversation. Perfect opportunity to do so. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Got an email from David who writes, "Hey, Dan, when I hear them talk of spending $4.5 million to repair the skate park on the Common makes me wonder where exactly the money's going to go. I walk past there almost every day, and I fail to see how the place could take that much money to fix it. All the projects, in my opinion, that presented to council want to proceed as their pet legacy projects, it seems. They don't care how much money they spend. It's not their money, but it's their legacy to be able to say, look what I got for you. I don't use the skate park. I would break my neck on a skate park. I don't think I've stepped foot on a skateboard since I was, before I could drive. So I understand, and the only sort of information I have on it is from the debate that I watched on it from council. But I understand it's used. It's well used. Probably not at this time of the year. At least the pictures I saw of it, it was full of snow when we had snow. And I don't know how the wear and tear on that works and so on and so forth. I'm sure it gets beat up. I'm sure if it's getting used a lot, the concrete chips and the railings that the skateboarders slide down and stuff likely get bent and broken, and it's out in the elements, and I understand all of that stuff. But $4.5 million is a lot of money, isn't it? And it was interesting that was the one. I rewatched the budget debate yesterday, and it was the one item that was identified to be sort of carved out of that page upon page list of items that were in the capital tenders or whatever it was called. And Councillor Purdy was the one who had it removed, and then they voted on it, and her motion, or that wasn't even a motion, and it was passed anyway. But it's interesting that one project was the one that kind of garnered the attention, and I think it might be a sign of things to come. Because if we're going to get down, as I've said countless times here, and you've heard it over and over again, if we're going to get down past this 10.5%, then those decisions are going to have to be made. Let's welcome Len to the program. Len, how are you?
Oh, good morning there, Dan.
How are you? You need to turn your radio down, my friend.
Okay.
There you go. That's
How's
better.
that?
I can't hear myself now. It's good.
Anyway, first of all, we have this problem every time a budget comes up about how much the high increases are going to be. And yet they talk about giving themselves a raise now of what, 4 or 5%?
4%.
Well, why don't they show the example and refuse to take this raise? I mean, they're already getting, with the extra money that they make during the year of sitting at other meetings and all that, they're up about $200,000 a year to start with. So why don't they show the example and not ask for a raise at this time right now when we're suffering with so many other expenses? The other thing I'd like to say, Dan, are you still with me?
I sure am.
I was talking to a counselor today. I live on a hill.
Okay.
And on that hill, there's a stop sign between just one street and Flamingo Drive.
Okay.
And I sat there for an hour to see how many cars come off of this other street. None come off. I think one car came off within 2 hours.
Okay.
Now, that stop sign, I asked the counselor, why don't she look at getting it removed? Because during the wintertime, people coming up that hill, most of them aren't going to stop because you'll never get going again if it's bad and slippery. And she said, well, we'll look into it. So I got an email from her today saying, well, I can't do nothing about it myself personally, which I understand. But she says the engineers have to look at it and examine it and see if it's possible that it can be removed. Now, isn't that ridiculous that they always have to have an examination or a consultation that will take God knows how long in order for this? Now, all I'm trying to do is to stop the congestion on this hill because of that stop sign. And it's not where a school zone is or anything.
I think I know the
Anyway,
stop sign you're talking about. It's in the middle of the hill, right?
Yeah, it's on the corner of Flamingo and Oriole.
Yep.
And there's hardly, I'm telling you, within about a couple of hours that I sat there just to make sure I know what I'm talking about. One car came off of Oriole that had to stop at that stop sign, and all they needed was a yield sign. But not to have a stop sign for people coming up that steep hill, and that's one of the steepest parts of the hill right there.
Yep.
And to stop during a snowstorm is ridiculous, and that's going to cause cars that's sliding back. Anyway,
thanks, Len.
That's my beef for today.
All right, have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255 for clarity. I don't know where Len got his $200,000 figure for, but I'm looking at some of the latest data here, and it's showing that city councilors are just over $100,000. I shouldn't say make just over $100,000 a year. The mayor makes more than that, but I don't think they're anywhere near $200,000. Just for clarity. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the break. My thanks to Councillor David Hensby, who forwarded me the very latest information on salaries as in a response to our last caller who said they were north of $200,000. That is not the case. Councillors in 2024-25, $103,378. Now, if you add the 4% on, that is what we've been talking about. That runs up to $107,500. Deputy mayor gets a little bit more, $113,000, $114,000 for easy math. That will go up to just north of $118,000. The mayor of HRM currently making $208,000, almost $209,000. With that 4% increase, that goes up to $217,242.61. Thank you to Councillor Hensby for letting us know about that. So there you have it. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Back to the phones. And welcome Mike to the show. Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. And you?
Good. What's on your mind?
So about the Nova Scotia Power bill overestimating, I just want to give a context. Like in Ontario, Enbridge, which is a natural gas company, they underestimate their bills, and then at the end, what happens is that people are getting like a massive bill, and then people complain about that still. So I don't think there's a good way for them to underestimate or overestimate the bill, because at the end, people are going to be mad for paying a huge bill or whatever. But the thing they do, and I think it's maybe an option, is to let people send their usage every month. So if people for Enbridge, they will go read their meter, and then on their website they can input the meter reading, and that's going to show on their bill.
So you can do it yourself?
Yeah, you can do it yourself, absolutely. And a lot of people don't do that for Enbridge, but the people who does that, their bill are exactly where it should be.
Right.
I think that should be an option for Nova Scotia Power, is to let people send their consumption, and then maybe once every 6 months someone will come and read your meter just to make sure everything is square.
And do an audit. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think they should do that, and I'm sure like a company like EMRA, they have all the IT people to figure this thing out, and I'll be more than happy to put my coat on and go outside, read my meter, go on the internet and send them my consumption.
Right.
I'm willing to do that. So I don't know. I hope that could be an option. I don't know, but we'll see.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We've been told that Nova Scotia Power is hiring people to go out and read meters. That would be an interesting option, wouldn't it? And then that way you take some responsibility, and you have to go out, and obviously that not everybody has the internet at home, and not everybody has or would be willing to do that under fear that they're going to do something wrong. But I think a good chunk of people out there would be more than willing to go out and read their meter and plunk that into their system under the knowledge that if you maybe short yourself, right, or maybe you read it wrong, that it eventually is going to catch up to you when it gets audited. But what a novel solution, right? Outside the box thinking. That's what we have to do these days. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 in regards to the study being done now, or at least the request for proposals for a study being done now by the province on traffic congestion in HRM. Joyce writes, I wish the province would dissolve this council. You ask, should those outside our HRM be annoyed about the traffic study? Well, I should be mad about money spent in Cape Breton. The majority of our population's in Metro. Skateboard park, absolutely obscene. Another sacred cow. Is there anything that's going to be cut? Joyce says, fire the lot of them. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Our first caller today talking about a stop sign that he's asked his council to remove. If you've ever been on Flamingo Hill, you know that hill is quite steep and there's a turn in it. There's actually a couple of turns in it. And it can get a little greasy in the wintertime. Ken writes, I don't live that far away from the stop sign. The hill is very steep and tricky to pull away from in the summer with a manual shift car, let alone in the winter. He says both of his cars have manual transmissions. And that's just his 2 cents. So maybe something that Len is onto here. I don't know how a yield works. Most people, I shouldn't say most, some people out there don't understand how yields work. And I wonder if that would create any more problems. Let's welcome Harold to the show. Harold, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, Harold. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for calling in. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
About Nova Scotia Power.
Okay.
Got a little story here.
Sure.
Our bills were going crazy, and my wife and I couldn't figure it out. So we decided one day, okay, this year we're not going to be home. No Christmas lights, no nothing, for a month.
Okay.
So that's the way it was, and we got our power bill, and it was the same as the year before at $780.
Holy smokes.
And we're looking at each other, and we kept doing what we were doing while we were home. We unplugged stuff you don't need. And all of a sudden, one day, with the old meters now, they came and put a red sticker on my meter.
Why?
Which meant a friend of mine worked at Nova Scotia Power.
Right.
They classed that as stealing power.
Not using it is stealing power.
You got it.
Interesting.
So, they came to the house 3 times to change the meter. And the last time the guy came to the door, he put his head down. Could I please change your meter to a smart meter? I said, listen, buddy, the way you just acted, I feel sorry for you.
Right.
He said, I don't want to be here, but I have to.
Yeah, understood. Yep.
I said, okay, go ahead. So, since then, the bills went up. I'm on that list of breach.
Yeah, as am I.
Well, I feel bad for you, and you know what? I'm putting my name in it with MacGillivray, and why not? What the heck?
Thanks for the call, Harold. Have a good one.
Care.
Take care. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. That is interesting, right? If you saw a significant reduction in the amount of power because he was, taking extreme measures to conserve, and then they flagged him as stealing power. It's the stories that I hear from you folks with regards to this utility never cease to amaze me, I should say. It's wild out there. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We are going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to go back to the phone lines. They're wide open right now, folks. If you want to get in ahead of the queue, perfect opportunity to do that. Again, in case you need the numbers, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We are back after the news. All right, welcome back. It's the Thursday, or as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Lots of things to talk about here on the show, but the lines are wide open, folks. If you want to get in to join the discussion or bring a new topic to the table, here you go. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Lots of emails on different subjects. This one from Tom says, "Hi, Dan. Whether the city or the province does the study, the traffic study, which we're talking about, in case you just joined us, HRM has done studies on congestion in the city several times. The province announcing yesterday that it's putting out an RFP or a tender for their own study to study the traffic congestion in HRM." And Tom writes, "Whether the city or the province does the study, we will get what the politicians want, not what the majority of HRM citizens want, i.e., we're going to have speed bumps, jut-outs, bike lanes, no matter what a study or a survey shows. For example, if they did a survey asking citizens of HRM if the crazy high number of aforementioned bike lanes and jut-outs and speed bumps are necessary, I'm pretty sure the answer would be no. But do you think things will change with those traffic items? Nope. The politicians do what they want to do these days, not what the majority of their constituents want done." And that is from Tom. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning, Dan. Nice comment there from Tom.
Yeah.
As you know, I agree with him.
Yeah, no doubt.
Look, the little gift that was dropped off to you guys yesterday for your Christmas treat, I've got to come clean on that one.
Okay.
David did that pretty much 100% on his own.
Okay.
I accompanied him and had some fresh cooked lobster meat for you guys, and David ate it on the way up.
Oh, that David.
So, David, if you're listening, you're in the doghouse now with Dan and Vanessa.
Fair enough. Anyway, in all seriousness, Chris, and to you and David, I appreciate it. It certainly has made our staff room look nice.
Oh, I'm glad. It's the least we can do. You guys do a fantastic job, and I think, as David indicated in the note, you're really one of our only transparent media that we have, in the way that the ordinary people like myself can get things off our chest or make suggestions or rant and complain like I do most of the time. But anyway, and all you counselors listening out there, I rant at you, I complain at you and whatever, but it's my duty to do that if I see something I think is going wrong. But I want to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. I hope everything goes very well for you. But please, look at your raise.
Right.
Anyway, Dan, that's not what I called it. It was Nova Scotia Power.
Yeah.
Your suggestion about capping the rates, I think that's a great idea. But even deeper than that, how about getting rid of this 9.5% guarantee?
Well, that I think would be tough, because I'm sure it's baked into a contract somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Now, who would have signed that contract?
Well, the province did.
Oh, okay. Politicians, right?
Right.
Yeah. Underscores how good they are at negotiating. Where in the heck can you go today and get a guarantee of a 9.5% on an investment that you make?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Great. I mean, I know people, I don't myself, but I know people that invest in the stock market, and they're risking. They're hoping they make a return that's positive. They don't always do that. They're taking a risk.
Absolutely.
And in many cases, they don't make the 9.5% by taking that risk. Here at Nova Scotia Power, I mean, I wish I had a pile of money. I'd probably buy a mare and draw my 9.5%, but I don't. But anyway, the guy that called in about the reading your own meters, years ago, I used to do that at my apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. We had several buildings that had what you call a meter room.
Okay.
And in many cases, they were older buildings that had been renovated and so on. So Nova Scotia Power likes to have their own lock put on these places so they can get in whenever they want, because they have a universal key and so on and so forth. I wouldn't go along with that, because I didn't want anyone having access to my buildings and for the security of my tenants and so on. And there was only usually a half a dozen meters or maybe 10 meters in a room anyway. So they allowed me for years and years. I read the meters myself, and occasionally I'd get a call from the meter reader who wanted to come in and verify the reading. It worked just fine. I had one building had half a dozen units in it, but it had one power meter, and I paid the power for the entire building.
Okay.
It was what was called a demand meter, which is a commercial type meter.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with the way that works, it has a little dial on it or needle that basically when your building or that meter is drawing its peak demand, the higher demand that you pull from that, the higher this needle goes. But when your demand drops off, the needle stays there. So they come in and read your meter, and they look at it, and they charge you for every kilowatt hour that you used. They charged you based on the peak rate at the time that's showing on your meter. And in actuality, there might only have been 1 or 2% of the power consumed at that highest rate. It's just if everyone came home, suppose, and turned on their stoves all the same time, turned their lights on at the same time, for that period, you get a big spike in demand, but it's not there all the time. So Nova Scotia Power came in and changed the meters one day from demand meters to residential meter, like you'd have on the side of your house. I got my bill 50%, exactly 50% less than what I'd been paying. I thought, this is great, because I, as a landlord, incur these costs and pass it along to my tenants, obviously. Right. So within 2 weeks after I received my new bill that was 50% less, they came back in, changed back the meters to the identical same demand meters that were on there. And I checked because they all have serial numbers. And then, of course, the next couple of months, the bill went right back up to where it had been again.
Wow.
I complained, got nowhere. So that's just a story to underscore that they're going to do whatever they deem necessary to increase their revenues to the detriment of the customer, whether it's fair to the customer or not. It just doesn't make any difference. So that was a very unpleasant experience that I had with them, and it just basically, like I said, it underscored what we feel or most people feel about Nova Scotia Power.
Thank you, sir.
But anyway, Dan, thanks very much for the time. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. 902-405-6000, 1-877-780-1255. That's interesting, isn't it? And Chris, I can vouch for Chris. Is astute when it comes to monitoring these things. And boy, that's wild. But why can't we? Why can't that? I'm starting to think that this is a better and better idea. Why can't there be an option? My building, I don't have an option because we still do have a meter room, and I don't have access to that. But if I'm thinking back to when I lived in a semi-detached and you had your meter hanging outside, why can't there be an option? At least until they get this whole thing sorted out with getting back onto the grid and dealing and getting the information from smart meters again. Why couldn't we opt into a program where we read our own meters? And if you opt in, and if you don't, then they estimate your bill, and then we've seen what that does. And if your numbers are off, if you read the meter wrong, as I said before, then when the audit comes, then either you're going to get whacked with a bill, or you're going to get some money back. But if you're accurate and truthful with your meter, then that shouldn't happen when this mess is over. I think it's a great idea. I'm hoping that Nova Scotia Power is listening to it. 902-405-6000, 1-877-780-1825. We're back after the break. All right, welcome back. Open hour continues right to the top of the hour, 902-405-6000, 1-877-780-1825. Let's welcome first-time caller, Don, to the program. Don, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
I appreciate the call. What's on your mind?
Just a quick question, a quick note for you.
Sure.
If you look on the Nova Scotia Power website, there is a form that you can fill out. You go out and take your picture of your meter. You fill out the form. You upload your picture and you send it off. And in 7 days, they'll get back to you. And I did that and got a $170 refund.
There you go. So it works.
So, it's easy to do, and it just sort of puts everything in balance.
Appreciate you sharing that with us, Don.
Great. Thank you. A great show.
Thank you. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-780-1825. Let's welcome Anne to the program.
Yeah.
Hi, Anne.
An interesting thing for you. Hi, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Guess what? I can only give my MLA $1,000 to donate towards their campaign, which of course I don't because I don't have it. But not that there's anybody else. But anyway, but I can give 25, 35, 45, 50, 100,000 to a city alderman for their campaign, and I don't. So this is why we're getting all this new construction. I just thought I'd let you have that for a thought.
I don't know. I've never donated, so I don't know if there is a limit on city council or not.
No, remember you had them on the hot seat when they were talking. I think it was you.
Okay.
And they were saying how, you can donate as much as you want. But, they could be, the hell freezes over because I wouldn't have that kind of money. But somebody has that kind of money.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Ann.
Okay, thanks.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. I am cautious to say that Ann is correct because I remember there was campaign finance accountability laws that were brought in when it was during one of Mayor Savage's spending limits. I can see, but I don't. Again, I'm doing this on the fly, so I will venture to dig into this, and I'm sure if somebody out there is listening and has better information than I, they will certainly pass that along. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. It's a day for Dawns today. Dawn, how are you?
Oh, very good, Dan. Thank you.
What's on your mind?
I just want to correct, Chris called in talking about Emera or Nova Scotia Power, and he was talking about the guaranteed 9% return on investment for Emera.
Okay.
And I just want to, I think he was implying that if a person invested in Nova Scotia Power, they would make 9% on their money, and that's totally not true because the price of a share of Nova Scotia Power reflects the fact that they generate a minimum 9% return each year. For example, any of us would try to invest in a company if we could be guaranteed 9%. So because there are only a certain number of shares outstanding to be sold or issued or to be purchased, people are willing to pay more to get a return from Nova Scotia Power. And the return that they're willing to get is far less than 9%. So in effect, when I think about that 9%, that investment in Nova Scotia Power, in effect, is almost like investing in a bond. And therefore, the 9% is a moot point to some extent. So I just wanted to correct Chris because I think he was implying that people make 9% and they invest, and they don't.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate the clarification.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Going back in my memory here, and y'all know that it's not the best these days. I do believe that that when Chris was referring to, that was to get a bunch of money together to outright purchase Emera. So then he would get that 9% return from Nova Scotia Power. But I'm glad that Don laid it out for what it means for you and I if we are or do have or hold any stake in that company, what that 9% means for the shareholder. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The email from Rob reads, Dan, city councillors refusing to turn down a 4% pay increase when they're looking at increasing our taxes by 6, 7, or even 8% or more is absolutely unconscionable, even more reprehensible when they are looking at things like cutting crossing guard salaries. Obviously, turning down a 4% raise isn't going to solve the city's budget problems, but it would be an indication that councillors have some appreciation for the financial hardship of the citizens of HRM. And that, it comes to us from Rob. So welcome Gloria to the show. Gloria, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm calling in defense of the councillors today.
Oh, my goodness. Roll tape.
Well, I'm fair. I'm a fair person.
Fair enough. We're going to record this one for posterity, Gloria.
When I hear them say they pay developers, that doesn't happen. And developers, the company can't give you money, but that doesn't stop them giving it in their own name.
Right.
But, I keep hearing this, the developers buy their way in, That isn't true, and that's not fair to developers either. Because I think we have good developers out there who work honestly. The other thing, I heard somebody say that, besides their pay, they get committee pay.
They don't. I know that's not true.
Well, they do. They get paid for being on the bridge, and they get paid. But that money goes into a council fund.
Okay.
And that's the money they use when they buy meals, when they're working
at
dinner time.
Doesn't go into their pay packet.
It does not go into their pay package.
Gloria, you may know this, and they may have changed the rules since you were last on council, but is there a limit to individual donations for a councillor?
Yes, there is. I can't remember the figure, but there is a limit.
Okay. I couldn't look. I've been trying to look it up, but obviously doing two things
there
at
is
once,
a limit. I
easy
can't
for me
remember,
to do.
you know.
It's like me walking backwards and chewing gum trying to dig stuff up.
Exactly.
All right, Gloria, appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. This email from Tina. Tina writes, "Hi, Dan. Didn't get a smart meter, so would like to know why my meter's not being read. Previously received my last 2 power bills, and to my surprise, they say they're estimated. My previous bill says my meter was read on July 23rd of 2025. Does it make any sense to you," which was referring to me, "that my bill should be estimated? Does anyone else out there have this problem?" It's interesting, isn't it, that there are still several people out there that don't have the smart meter. The reason why we're not getting smart meters read is that Nova Scotia Power has told us that because of the cyber breach, they're unable to get those readings, and in fact are hiring people to go out and read the smart meters. So if you didn't have one, that being a smart meter, and you are on the old system and you still were having your meter read, then one would think, and I stand to be corrected, but one would think that it would be business as usual. Doesn't make sense unless they're so busy and strapped that they're unable to check everybody's meters, and I'm sure Nova Scotia Power would let us know if that was in fact the case. Don't forget, there are some meetings that are happening. One starting down the province in Yarmouth. Now, these aren't traditional sit in the chairs and listen to presentations and ask questions kind of meetings that are happening with Nova Scotia Power and affected rate payers that have been impacted by this cybersecurity or by this estimated billing process. Nova Scotia Power reached out to me just before the show started this morning and said that these sessions are to be similar what Nova Scotia Power did to support customers who didn't have access to the internet and were looking for help signing up for the credit monitoring. People will come and go during the day. It's an opportunity to speak to someone from customer care in person about their bill. It's not a sit-down meeting. Today's session in Yarmouth goes from 3 until 7, and I hope this helps. I will do my very best to try and find the dates for other places. And should one be a little closer here to HRM, we certainly will share that with you. So if you have questions about why your non-smart meter is not being read, or this photographing thing that apparently you can take pictures and send them. I haven't done it, so I don't know if it works. But those questions can all get asked of people that are in their customer care department. Thanks to all of you. Dial the numbers and join the program and join the conversation. I truly, truly appreciate it. We've got a special hour coming up here for hour number 3 on the program. When we come back from the break, we're going to focus a little bit on workplace environment. I can think back to my days on construction sites when I was a young teenager, and some of the behavior that was happening on those sites was less than ideal, I will say. Now, there's a push to change some of the behavior, and I'm putting quotes around this, the boys will be boys culture in the construction sector. A conversation with Nick Cardone, who's going to join us in the studio today, of Free Range Therapy about this. We'll talk to the Nature Conservancy as part of hour number 3 with looking for something unique to put in a stocking this year as we get closer to Christmas. And then we're going to spend 30 minutes with Ken Shea from East Coast Credit Union and setting up your finances for 2026. We'll ask him if Emera is a good investment. Why not, right? They're going to get a return of 9%. That's got to buoy well for their stock price. I'm saying this with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek, but who knows? Maybe Ken will suggest that Emera is a good investment. That is what's coming up here on the program. I hope you can stick around. Glad that you're here. We're going to take a break for the news, get an update, and on the other side of it, workplace culture, changing behaviors on the job site. Nick Cardone of Free Range Therapy, our guest. We're back after the break. All right, welcome back. I mentioned before the break that in my younger days, when I had a better hairline than I have now, I used to work in part of a construction field and on a number of job sites, and can remember back during those formative years that they can be a bit of a different world and a bit of a different place, being that in my time it would have been the mid to late 80s and early 90s. It was a different time, obviously, but the construction industry, and I'm assuming that it's much the same today, is a very male-dominated world, and a lot of times, a lot of issues go unaddressed at job sites, and I'm thinking more along the lines of stuff that's not easy to talk about, and stuff that perhaps some peer pressure happening there that, I don't need to worry about that, just take an aspirin and go back up on and do your job kind of thing, which doesn't necessarily work particularly in the mental health world of things. I'm very pleased to welcome into the show today somebody that's been doing some work in this field on trying to break some of those stigmas and stereotypes of those job sites. Is Nick Cardone, who's from Free Range Therapy, and he's joining me in the studio today. Nick, thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan.
I guess that's the first question is, when we're talking, and I mean, just look out the window. They're all over the place here. That these job sites can be a bit of a difficult place if you're working in them and perhaps things aren't going so well for you.
I like to name from the get-go that, just the nature of the work itself is hard in and of itself. It's physically demanding. There are the mental pressures of, meeting deadlines or, pressure from, on high. But sometimes the work is also, if it's remote or if you're working into, the colder seasons like this time of year, let alone if it's seasonal, those are just inbuilt pressures that are just inherent parts of the work. So that's going to add to just the reality. But there are other pressures that do contribute to really horrific mental health and addiction stats that are really quite scary.
It's at least in my time, and I would imagine that it's likely the same in today's world. It was the suck it up, buttercup, right? Was the saying when if you were not feeling well or whatever else, it was like, well, it's better to be sick on the job than sick at home, and those kind of things. Do those attitudes, are they still prevalent today?
100%. Those things still play out, and even like in your scenario there, rather come to work sick than stay home. There's a lot of guys, especially in the mid to smaller size construction companies, where if you stay home, you're not getting paid.
Right.
So there's that added pressure. This is sort of what I call one of the second parts of the perfect shitstorm, if you'll pardon my language there, that, people need to get paid. People need an income. They're either, trying to provide for their family, or if they're an apprentice, they also need to sort of meet their hours. So there's those pressures no matter what. And then if you are going to work and you are injured or you're sick, not only, sucking it up also means having to field comments from your coworkers, from the rest of your crew,
right.
And you're made to feel like you're less than or not producing as much. And so again, that adds to the stress load and the putting up with the really hard stuff. Now, if we can add into that, you are feeling depressed about something, if a relationship has just broken down, if you have a parent that's just had to go into a nursing home, like whatever the stressor is, like life itself has its stressors, right? And so that is one of the third tiers, we'll call it, of just stuff that we can't change. We've all got crap. And again, between the culture that sometimes contributes to unhealthy attitudes and treatment of people, the fact that people feel the pressure to work, and the fact that we've just all got crap to deal with, it does create this, a perfect storm of dis-ease where guys don't know what to do with their struggles. We don't do a good job of asking for help when we need it,
right?
Let alone reaching out, to others, and and that creates sort of a spiral of sort of negative physical and mental health outcomes.
And that can lead to serious consequences and even death and suicide.
Absolutely. And again, those are definitely some of the more extreme and stunningly sort of sad realities. But, I was telling you off air that just in the last year alone, I have been directly involved in 3 construction-related suicides. And, just by virtue of the work that I do, indirectly involved in another 3. So just myself as an individual clinician, being around 6 construction-related suicides is pretty tragic. And it's not just about those individuals. It's about their colleagues, their partners, their families, their kids.
It impacts everybody.
It impacts everyone. And then, we can extrapolate that to, the stunningly high rates of addictions, overdose rates in the construction fields, again, are worse off in these male-dominated work environments than any other environment.
So how important is it to identify this problem and get into these sites, into this job field, and try to affect some change and break that sort of cycle of and I go back to suck it up, buttercup? Sure.
Well, identifying, I would say from a statistics standpoint, we've known that the numbers are horrible. Doesn't matter if we're talking about suicide rates, addictions, motor vehicle accidents. Like there's a whole number of stats where if you're working in the construction field, you are quote unquote worse off. So identifying that stuff, we already know that. What I try and talk about is sometimes it's just to paint a picture is like, if a fish is swimming around the ocean and you were able to talk to it and ask the fish what the water's like, they're probably going to say, what the heck is water? Because it's all around them.
Right.
They don't know better or differently. And so the same thing goes with a lot of the cultural elements, the things that have just been the way they are in construction, like you were talking about when you were young, and they continue to persist. And so if we don't raise the light of awareness to those things, we never know that there's some different way of being. And so if we can get to that point, then, and this is what's happened in the work that I do in the last years, construction companies that do have some, motivation to actually want something to be different, want their employees to be healthier. They want to, mitigate problems happening before they happen. Then that's our invitation to come in and work with, our work specifically works with the leadership, because it's the site supervisors, it's the foremen, it's the project managers who quite literally are on site doing one of 2 things. They either are dealing with the crap, whatever that crap looks like, on site. So guys who are bullying each other, or guys stereotypically who are bullying even people who are not male. So women or gender diverse folks on site. Whether it's someone who's showing up under the influence of something, whether it's someone who's looking bedraggled because of a really crappy night they had, whatever it is.
Right.
But they're the first line of defense, we'll say. They're like the first responders
first
almost.
Point of contact, right?
Yeah. And then secondarily is how can we tool them, resource them, not to be therapists, but just to be like an empathetic ear, to, be mindful of how they show up. Like, are they those gruff, big, loud voices who set the tone for the suck it up buttercup? Are they the ones perpetuating those stereotypes of how we need to be?
Leadership by example.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time, Nick. You've been into these sites where you mentioned seen this kind of stuff happen. When you show up and you talk to the leaders and you talk to the guys or the people on the job, how receptive are they to you?
So I'd say there's like almost like a holding on steadfast to the way it needs to be. It's like
it's always been this way.
We don't want to soften. We don't want to soften men, or it's not all about men, or something along those lines. And it's not all about men. It's about the culture that has been created. But what we're noticing from so someone was at a workshop last year, and there was like it's a 2-day workshop, and they came back into their day 2, and we were asking how things were going, and they said, yeah, I was checking in with guys more. I was like softening my voice, and people thought I was weird. But then it just became a little bit more normalized.
Right.
That I was checking in with them. That I was actually actively listening
the
to what
bosses here want something.
Yeah. But so that's what we're noticing. Just one of those things, and it's hard. It's hard to be a leader who's trying to impact change. but that is how we shift the culture. It's a mountain is moved one rock at a time. And so if we can work with leaders to slowly start shift, then new people coming into the industry don't feel like they have to adopt those unhealthy sort of ways of being.
Nick, we're almost out of time. If somebody out there that's listening to us on the job site or wants more information about what it is you do, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so Solid Foundations is the name of this training that we do, this leadership training. It's offered through the Construction Association of Nova Scotia. So that is the most direct way to get in touch with me or my colleague Brian Berganza about this work that we're doing.
Nick, I appreciate the time.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're going to stop and take a break. On the other side of it, a stocking stuffer from the Nature Conservancy of Canada, National Media Relations Director Andrew Holland will be your guest. You are listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the program. Christmas in full effect as people are hustling and bustling, as the song goes, trying to fill those lists. And we know Santa Claus is pretty busy up there in the North Pole getting things ready for the season. And by the way, and Vanessa's probably going to get angry at me for saying this, but Christmas Eve here on the Todd Veinotte Show will be here. And we're going to do a special, would be, I guess, our year-end show. And an elf told me today that our request to have the man himself, the jolly old elf, Santa Claus, Father Christmas, Yule Pookie, wherever you call him, is going to join us on the show. Yeah. On Christmas Eve. That's the pull Vanessa Vananez has. She is able to connect up with Santa Claus, who's going to be in a sleigh because he's busy. But he said, "Yep, Vanessa, I'll do that for you." So, if you're looking for something to do with the kids as they're getting rambunctious with their pre-Christmas Day anticipation, Santa will be here, and would love to hear from your kids or your grandkids on the 24th during the open hour, and let's let them have a conversation with Santa Claus himself. So we're looking forward to it. I don't know what list I'm on. Some of you will suggest I'm not on the good list. There's a lump of coal that's in my future, but maybe I can talk him out of it. Anyway, that is still to come on the program. And speaking of Christmas, I know that many of you out there are looking for something for that hard-to-buy-for person, right? There's somebody out there that's got everything, and you just are racking your brain trying to figure out what in the heck am I going to buy for this person to give them for Christmas. Well, the Nature Conservancy of Canada likely has an answer for you. And when we say Nature Conservancy of Canada, that means that our guest on the phone is our friend from probably snowy Fredericton today, and that's Andrew Holland. Andrew, how are you?
Great. How are you today?
Is it snowing up there?
Absolutely. We had the schools are closed. We had a lot of rain and freezing rain and snow last night, and it's continued into today. So I would say right now on the ground, Dan, we've got more snow on the ground now than we had all last winter combined.
There you are.
Last year we didn't have much snow at all. This is really wet, packy stuff today, and like boulders at the bottom of your driveway that the city plows leaving, courtesy of their road crews.
Well, we're all thinking about you, Andrew, as you're out there shoveling. We really are.
Try to move things around as best as we can.
There you go. Andrew, my preamble was a gift for somebody that is tough to buy for, and the Nature Conservancy is stepping up and offering up some ideas for us as we get ready for the holiday season.
Yeah, and you touched on it, Dan, in your intro quite well, that there are people that they have everything, or they live far away, or they're difficult to buy for, or conversely, they may be an outdoors lover, nature enthusiast. So this is something where you can symbolically adopt habitat in Canada, or adopt a different species, whether it's in this part of the country, here in Atlantic Canada, Blanding's turtle in Nova Scotia, which are an at-risk species, or you can have an Atlantic puffin in Newfoundland. So we've identified different parts of Canada and 13 different animals that people can symbolically adopt for Christmas.
How does it work, Andrew? Do you log onto the site and you pick one and then make a donation and then send that to side? What's the mechanics of it?
Yeah, you're quite right. So this program, this is the 30th year that the Nature Conservancy of Canada has offered this sort of green gifts program, and it's raised over $3 million across Canada that has been reinvested into local land conservation projects that help people, help communities in terms of clean air, clean water, places for recreation. But yeah, you go online and you pick who you want to buy a gift for, and you select either the species, whether it's a grizzly bear or a swift fox or a wolf or a Canada lynx, which is, threatened here in the Maritimes. So you pick a species, or you can pick the East Coast, for example, and you buy that, symbolically buy that critter or that hectare of land, and the person who receives the gift gets a certificate saying that a gift has been made in their name, and they get a species booklet that sort of highlights what that's all about, what the gift is that has been made in their name, and what's the benefit of that. And they also get a 2026 NCC, Nature Conservancy of Canada calendar with many incredible photos from across the country of our nature reserves. So that's what the person who receives the gift gets. The person that buys the gift wins as well. They get a charitable tax receipt for the value of their gift. So it's something they can use on their income taxes next year.
We look forward to the Nature Conservancy of Canada calendars every year around here. In fact, Vanessa is looking at me like, are we getting one this year? So maybe I'll have to get one for her.
100%. We can we can take care of that.
Fair enough. Andrew, tell me a little bit about where the money goes. What do you use these funds for?
Typically, here in the Maritimes and most places in Canada, we use the funds to go towards local areas. So in your listening area, Musquodoboit Harbour is a key focal point for the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Musquodoboit Harbour, Musquodoboit River are areas where we have active conservation projects where we're trying to raise money to conserve additional lands and have them augment existing conservation areas that people can use and enjoy, but they're also important for wildlife and different plants. Certainly in western Nova Scotia, so that corridor between Liverpool and Shelburne, I would call it, a lot of coastal properties, forested lands there for protection, that we are actively raising funds to do more conservation lands. The Chignecto Isthmus on the Nova Scotia and New Brunswick side. This is this wildlife corridor we used to dub the Moose Sex Corridor.
The Moose Sex Corridor, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's still an ongoing initiative because lands there are really popular. Like they're under a lot of pressure for roads and cottages and developments and, cutting down the trees. So that's an active campaign to conserve lands on both sides of the border so that wildlife have a better passages and can move. Because otherwise, wildlife can't get to the rest of North America. They'd be stuck in Nova Scotia. So it's an important linkage for wildlife with for wildlife between Nova Scotia and the rest of North America.
Andrew, if somebody wants to take part in this holiday program, what's the best way to do that?
I would encourage them to check out the website and look at their options. So there's just a webpage, giving.natureconservancy.ca. They can learn more, and the certificates and everything can be sent electronically and printed off, so they can be a good stocking stuffer if that's what people have in mind, or something to put under the tree. But at least people have the sense of knowing that a good feeling that they're giving to nature, they're giving to something close to home. And as a charity, the Nature Conservancy of Canada works to protect wetlands and forests and shoreline areas and floodplain floodplains in our regions and wetlands, and so we use these funds to conserve and restore and care for these areas, and so that's what's behind this initiative.
Andrew, best of luck with the driveway, and best of the season if I don't talk to you between now and Christmas.
Well, same to you and all your listeners, and wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a safe traveling wherever they may be out and about, for sure.
Thanks, Andrew. That is Andrew Holland, the National Media Director for the Nature Conservancy of Canada. We're going to take a break here. Blake is going to update us on the news. On the other side of it, we've been looking forward to this all week. We have a half an hour long conversation with Ken Shea from East Coast Credit Union, getting your finances in shape for 2026. Some inside tips, and who knows, maybe some advice as to what you should do with those stocking stuffer dollars that you get this Christmas. Ken Shea from East Coast Credit Union will be your guest when we return. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. In conversation, we'll call this, with the CEO at East Coast Credit Union, and that is Ken Shea. And Ken, of course, is here offering us some thoughts and maybe some advice as to what we should be doing with our money as we roll into 2026. And Ken, I would imagine that the bulk of people that sit in front of you and your folks down there at the credit union looking at investing some money are looking at their retirement and being able to afford to quit working and live on their retirement income in their, and I'm putting quotes around this, their golden years. That all being said, sometimes people looking up at retirement and the pensions aren't around like they used to be, and CPP's there and OAS is there, but you can't live on it. It looks like that when you're getting into the job market, particularly and you're not making a ton of money to begin with, is an uphill road to retirement, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I think it really comes down to planning. And, if you're fortunate enough to have a pension plan or an RSP matching plan at your work, one of the first steps is obviously to take advantage of that free money, trying to ensure that you're getting a benefit of that. There's been some changes over the last number of years in retirement planning. And I think for a lot of people, especially if they're in the first earning years, RRSPs may not be the best vehicle. Like maybe you should be using the TFSA because you're not getting a tax deduction, but your benefit of your tax deduction when you're in a lower income bracket isn't as big as it is when you're in the higher bracket, so to speak. And there's a lot more flexibility to a TFSA product versus an RSP, where when you take it out, you're fully taxed on every dollar. So it's trying to balance what you think your needs are with what's the best situation for you going forward. Certainly RSPs are very popular still. And they're very, very good product, to help augment, like you say, whether you're getting a pension income or whether you're trying to augment your Canada pension and old age security. There have been some improvements recently to Canada pension and old age security. So that's actually helping, will help over the long term for people. But like you say, there's a lot less employers that actually have that pension plan built in. So it's a lot more the responsibility of the actual individual to try to make sure that they're looking after themselves. And it does take dedication, I think, and balance to make sure that you're doing it, because it's often easy, like you were saying earlier, to get to the end of the month and there's still a month left, but there's no money. So it's really about prioritizing and then trying to take advantage of all the products that are available to you to best fit your situation. And I think that's when it comes time to seek advice with a professional, because often they may be able to help you structure your plan in such a way that it benefits your particular situation. A lot of people like to do things themselves, and there's lots of tools for that, but there's nothing like a conversation about where you're planning to go and how you're going to get there.
Ken, is there a magic number that we should be looking at as is the amount of money that we need to retire on, or is that change, case by case, year by year?
It really depends on the individual, because it depends on what you want from your retirement and the lifestyle that you hope to lead once you're retired. So if you're an individual that has been, paying down their house over their whole career, and you're not a big traveler and what have you, you may be able to survive on X number of dollars. But if you want to do all these other things, then you got to make sure you plan to have the capacity, I guess, to do those. So it's hard to give a number for an individual as to what they need to save. A lot of people will say, you should take whatever your spending is going to be and reverse engineer that, multiply it by like 25 times, and that's kind of your number. So if you plan to spend 50,000 and you need, a certain amount to do that, like a couple million, I'm sorry. If you plan to spend 100,000, then, the number goes up. So it really is dependent on the person. So, and what your lifestyle is, and then what other sources of income are you going to have in retirement? Do you have a pension that's outside of your other savings? Do you have, what's your CPP and your OAS going to be? Are you married? Do you have children? Are they still relying on you, or now have you kind of moved to where they're kind of self-sufficient and you don't have to worry about them, and so they're not there's not as much of a financial commitment there, which makes your spending probably less when you're entering retirement. Maybe you have your house paid off if you've been fortunate enough to be paying all the way along. And that might also help, because then that means there's less money going out every month, so you have to earn less in retirement to make things work. But yeah, it's really about the individual. The other thing that's really important, I think, with any of those financial plans is to make sure you're thinking about estate planning when you're setting up your RSPs and your different types of savings accounts, like making sure beneficiaries are appointed and things, because it can smooth the process if anything were to happen to someone. And it also makes that sometimes, like if it goes to a spouse, there's no tax implications right away. They only have to pay tax when they take it out and those kind of things. So it's really very important, I think, to do a little bit of that fact finding and make sure that things are set up in the right way as you're initiating or reviewing those accounts.
Ken, we only have a few minutes left here. I think the bottom line here from our conversation today is that if you want to get a foot ahead or a step forward in planning for education or for retirement, it's money well spent to sit down in front of a financial advisor and have a chat.
Absolutely, and many financial advisors can give you that advice, and it's not necessarily at a huge cost, but the advice can be worth a lot in the longer term because it can point you in the right direction. And certainly, we've got lots of individuals at the credit union, of course, that be willing to do that. But there's lots of good professionals out there that do this work, and I think it's really about having a plan, putting it in action, and then making sure you monitor it as you're going through that it's doing what you're hoping it is going to do.
Ken, is always a pleasure, sir, and best of the season to you, and happy returns in 2026.
Same to you, Dan, and you and your listeners have a great Christmas and a happy holidays, and we'll look forward to maybe another session in the new year.
For sure, looking forward to it, Ken. That is Ken Shea, the CEO of East Coast Credit Union. It can be daunting, right? Like if you're staring at some of these bills and some of these expenses, right? And your expenses are just same as mine, right? We're stretching dollars pretty thin these days. It can be daunting, and to be quite honest, when I had my first conversation with a financial planner, it was quite intimidating because I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm glad I did. And, as each year, it's the calendar flips each year and I get closer and closer to retirement. I don't know when that is. I feel a little bit better knowing that I've got some of it taken care of. Is it all there? Absolutely not. Am I going to retire at 55? No. I might be here for a little bit longer than that. But anyway, it's time well spent, I will say. Even if you don't have a lot of money or don't think you have a lot of money to invest, it would peace of mind really is really what it's all about. Thanks to Ken and to all of our guests today for picking up the phone and spending some time with us and imparting their knowledge upon us. I learned something every day that we do this, right? Thank you to all of you who dial the numbers and join the conversation in the open hour. Don't forget, we're going to do that again tomorrow. It's the Friday free-for-all, your opportunity to wrap up the week with what you whatever you want to talk about. That's the beauty of Open Line Radio. Thank you very much across the glass to Vanessa Vandenez, who she got a round of applause yesterday. I don't know if I can top that. Maybe we'll have to have a standing ovation one day for her for the work that she does. Outstanding work each and every day, folks. Without Vanessa, the show just does not happen. I mentioned tomorrow is the Fabulous Friday edition of the program. Our regulars will be here. Tim will be here to chat some federal politics. Hopefully we'll dig into this plan from the province to study traffic congestion here on the show. Alistair Alders will be here as part of the show as well to maybe dig into his almanac to see if we're going to have a white Christmas. And Alistair has an announcement to make tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I hope that you can stick around for that too, because I think it's going to be pretty cool. And can you believe the story of Peace by Chocolate? We all know that story, right? Tarek Hadhad and his family coming over here and starting a chocolate business in a shed. Well, they're going to make an animated feature about it, and we're going to dig into what that means. That and a whole lot more is the Fabulous Friday edition. Until then, everybody, be well, and remember, be kind to one another.